There are 4 basic steps of arm knitting. First step is casting on. The second one is knitting, binding off, which is getting it off of your arm, and then finishing, which is sewing the ends together to make the cowl. Hi, my name is Carrie, and today I will be showing you how to arm knit. Arm knitting is one of the quickest ways you can make a scarf. It's great as a gift, and it doesn't really take any time. In fact, it doesn't take any needles. You just need your arms. This is all you need. 2 skeins of a super bulky yarn. The thicker the yarn, the better. And you should use 2. If you use 1, it just won't turn out right. You want to use 2. I even know some people who have used 3. And then you'll need a pair of scissors to cut your yarn when you're done. So let's begin. The first thing you're going to do is make a slip knot. This is called your working yarn. So here, you take the slip knot, you make a slip knot by wrapping the yarn twice around your middle finger, and then the yarn that's closest to your fingers, you pull up there, grab the yarn, there's your yarn, there's your slip knot. I will do it again. This is called the tail. Wrap it around your fingers twice, up here. Pull your yarn here, which is really the tail. Grab your yarn, there's your slip knot. I'll zoom in. Okay, now this would be from my point of view. So here's your tail, my 2 fingers here. Take the back of your working yarn, you wrap it around your fingers, over here. Put your fingers in, pick up your tail, there's your slip knot. Okay, so we made our slip knot. The slip knot is actually going to be your first stitch. So now we're going to put this on our left arm. Pull up your sleeves. Slide the slip knot onto your arm. The way that I like to use it is my tail is in the front, and my working yarn is closer towards me. So now what we're going to do, we're going to cast on. And what I like to do is cast on anywhere between 6 and 12 stitches. Today we're going to do 9. So you grab your working yarn, make a fist, have your thumb pointing towards you. I'll turn around in a minute so you can see how this works. Lift my fist up, take the hand that's already got my slip knot, put it in, and I pull on it. I have 2 stitches. I do it again. Make my fist, my thumb is facing down, I pull it towards me, and I put my hand in, and then I kind of pull it. I do another one, I lift up, I put my hand in. I'll turn around so you can actually see my point of view. So now this is the way that I'm looking at it. My tail is back here, my working yarn. I have my hand, my thumb is facing down. I grab my working yarn. There's my yarn coming through. I lift it up so it kind of makes a hole. And I take my hand and I put it through, and then I grab onto it and just pull a little tight. You don't want it to be too tight because you're going to be taking it off your hand. So here's what it kind of looks like. It looks like it's kind of braiding up a little bit. So then I grab again, pull up, put my hand through. Pull up, put my hand through. Let me count. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'll make 2 more. I grab it, pull up, put my hand through it. That's 8. 1 more. That's 9. I have 9 stitches on my hand. Now I'm ready to knit. Before you start knitting, one of the things you might want to do is take your 2 skeins. I usually put them on the floor, and I just pull up a lot of slack on both of them. This way I don't have to do it when I'm in the middle of knitting. Okay, so now we're going to take it from this yarn. We already have, this is basically our first stitch, or our first row. So now we're going to bring it over to this hand. So what I do, on my left hand, which is where my yarn is, I grab my working yarn. Here it is. take my right hand, grab the first stitch, pull it over my fist, I drop it, and see I have left a hole, I put my hand through it, and I let go. I take my left hand, I grab my working yarn, and what you want to do, you kind of want to pick up the slack. So it's not too tight, but it's not too loose. However big you make these loops is how big your scarf will end up being. So here I'm holding my working yarn now in my left hand. I take my right hand, I take the next stitches, pull it over, drop it, there's my loop, put my hand in it, and then I pull up the slack. And if you look here, now we're connected. That's okay. So again, grab my working yarn in my left hand, take my right hand, pull the next stitch over, pull it over my fist, let go, there's my loop, put my hand in it. Trust me, these first few rows is just going to look like a mess. So grab my working yarn, pull my hand over the fist, put my hand through it. Left hand, hold my working yarn, pull it over, put my hand through it. Okay, so this is the way that I'm looking at it. I have my working yarn in my left hand, I take my right hand, grab the next stitch, pull it over my fist, I let go, put my hand in it. I'm pushing my hand away from me, not towards me. You don't want to go this way, you always want to go that way. I put my hand in, I grabbed it. Okay, working yarn in the left hand, take my right hand, pull it over, drop it, put my hand through it. Grab my working yarn, pull the next stitch over my fist, grab it, put my hand through it. And then the last stitch, which is our slip stitch, pull it over, drop it, put my hand through. This is what it looks like right now. Okay, we finished our first row. Now I'm on my right arm, and I just want to point one thing out to you, that some of the stitches on these first few rows, like if you look at the stitch here, it's hanging down a little bit further than these right here. It's not going to matter in the end, because this is where we're going to be kind of tying it all together to make the infinity scarf. So don't worry if some of your stitches don't look like they really match. They will get better. So now what we do is we take it from the right arm back to the left arm. So you just do everything in reverse. So here it's in my right hand. I grab my working yarn, just right here. Take my left hand, pull the first stitch over my fist, make a loop, put my hand through it. I pick up my working yarn in my right hand and I kind of pull on it just to get the tension back. Take the second stitch, pull it over my fist, drop it, make up my loop, put my hand through it. Right about now it's looking more like cat's cradle than a scarf. Take my working yarn, grab the next stitch with my left hand, pull it over my fist, make a loop, put my hand through it. Pick up my working yarn, pull it over, drop it, make a loop, put my hand through it, grab my working yarn, pull it, drop it, put my hand through it, pull it, drop it, put my hand through it, pull it over, put my hand through it, down to my last stitches here, my last one, pull over. There we are. Now we're back on the left hand where we started. And if you look, you can start to see, here's the first row, here's the second row, third row is up on my arm. Now you just go back and forth. Okay, so I have been knitting seriously for maybe like 10 minutes, and I have this much done. Now when it comes to how long you want your scarf to be, it's all up to you. I don't count my stitches, I don't count my rows. What I usually do is I take my arm, if it's going to be an infinity scarf, I wrap it around my head. I just wrap it around to see if it goes around twice, because that's how I like my scarf to fit. You don't even have to tie the ends together if you don't want to. If you like it just the way this is, then you can. By the way, the yarn that I'm using is a 100% acrylic, but as long as it's a super bulky, I mean, it can be even, you can pick 2 different colors. These are both the same. I'm using brown, but school colors work great if you use like a red and a black, or just whatever color you like to use. Looks good. So now we're going to bind off. And you can bind off on either arm. It doesn't matter. I'll bind off from my left arm to my right arm. So what you're going to do, you're going to make 2 stitches onto your right arm as if you're still knitting. So here we go. Again, my working yarn is in my left hand. All my stitches are on the left. I pull it over, drop it, put my arm through. I've made 1 stitch. Pick up my next stitch, pull it over, put my arm through. Okay, I have 2 stitches on my right arm. Now here's what I'm going to do. I'll take my working yarn just for a moment, hold it with my right hand, grab the stitch that's closest to your elbow, the first stitch, pick it up, pull it over your right hand, drop it, pick up your working yarn with your left hand, let go. You have 1 stitch. So here we go again. I'm holding my working yarn in my left hand. I take the next stitch. I knit it onto my right arm. I'll grab my working yarn, take the stitch that's closest to my elbow, pick it up, pull it over my hand, let go of it, grab my working yarn, let go of that. Now I have 1 stitch. So you do that with all of your stitches. You knit it, hold on to it, grab the yarn that's closest to your elbow, pull it over. You're pulling it over the stitch you just created. Let go of it. And again, every time I do this, I'm picking up the slack. Let go, there it is. You'll never have more than 2 stitches over here. I got 4 left. So I knit, grab the yarn closest to my elbow, pull it off. Pull it over. There we go. Pick up the yarn closest to my elbow. Drop it, drop it. I'm down to 2 stitches. I knit it, put my hand through. Take this one. Okay, here we are. I drop my stitch. I got 1 on my arm. Here's what I've done. Looks like a nice, let's bind it off. I'm going to grab my scissors. Here's my working yarn still. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the working yarn, but I'm going to cut it, that's probably what, a foot? Probably a good 2-3 feet of working yarn. Keep this one on your arm. Don't let it fall off. I usually hold on to it. Pick up my scissors. Cut it. There we go. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to knot this. So I grab this 1 stitch that's left. And then knot it. There we go. Put that away. Here's the tail. What you'll notice, this is the right side of your scarf. You can see it looks like all the stitches lay flat. If you turn it over, then you'll see the wrong side. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to sew, or I'm just going to attach the 2 ends with the wrong side facing up. I bring them up to here. So I'm just going to attach these 2 ends. And the way you attach it, you don't even have to use a needle, but you'll do basically a whip stitch through every loop that you created. So let me whip stitch this. And it doesn't have to be the cleanest, because then what we're going to do is we're going to make a big knot at the end here. Okay, I have whip stitched my ends together, and they don't look the cleanest, but it doesn't matter, because the way that I finish it off is I wrap it around and make a big knot that kind of looks decorative, and it sits on the back of your neck if you wanted to, or you don't have to. Also over here, before I go on, here's my original slip knot. Because it's still a slip knot, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to knot this end real quick so it doesn't ever come apart. Then what I do is pretty easy. I just find my yarn, and I loop it around a whole bunch of times around my whip stitched area. And then when I get to about here, what, 8 inches? I take it, pull tight, I find a spot that I can kind of conceal it. And I just kind of conceal it on the back end of the knot here, pull it, and then I knot it a few times so it doesn't come undone. And then I'll take my scissors, I'll cut that off. And that's your finished infinity scarf. You can do it in under 30 minutes. And the way that I taught you how to cast on is the easiest way to cast on. There's a few different ways. One's called the long tail cast on, which I can show you later. That's a little bit harder, but this was the easiest way to cast on. And I think we did this all in about 30 minutes.